technical skills you need for cybersecurity roadmap by Unix Guy. Let's check it out.
I worked in IT for 7 years before I landed my first cybersecurity job, and I had...
Whoa, 7 years. That's crazy. I would say if you're hyper motivated, if you know that is the niche you want to get down into, right? If you're from entry level IT, you know you want cybersecurity, you can absolutely do it faster than 7 years. That's kind of crazy.
Had a degree.
Sorry, I'm just gonna keep pausing as stuff comes to mind. It's actually okay if you take more time to get into security. The reason why is I have coworkers that have experience in other IT domains, and that knowledge is so incredibly useful because let's say one of the guys has a networking background, and he quotes to me the RFC, the request for comments, like the actual number, which one it is, when we're talking about networking topics, when we're discussing network security and how to improve it. I'm like, man, this guy just knows what he's talking about because he spent years as a network engineer. I have another coworker who spent years as a system administrator, so he knows a lot of the backbone of like Active Directory and Azure and that whole piece of Microsoft. And having a background in these other domains is super helpful, is super useful, because we need to secure all of these other domains. So taking 7 years is not necessarily a bad thing. You can rush into security like I did. Took me, I want to say 10 months, somewhere right around 10 months from when I got entry-level IT. And that's great too, right? I will have some expertise that other folks don't have, but it's possible to go into it quickly, but don't be like, oh, I'm wasting my life, I'm wasting time if I'm not. It's absolutely all right.
And many certifications. But can you become a cybersecurity professional way faster? Absolutely. In this video, I will share with you the cheapest and fastest way to build technical skills if you're starting out in cybersecurity, so you can gain the confidence and knowledge to land.
Notice he's assuming, hi Kitty, he's assuming that you have a job in IT and can transition into security from there, is what I'm, yeah, Kitty? Yeah, you're okay.
Your dream job and progress in your career. What inspired this video is an annual performance conversation I had with a cyber analyst at work. Her name is Amy, and she joined our team last year fresh out of uni, so she didn't have any technical skills. She wants to progress to the next level and become a senior cyber analyst.
This to me is rare, where you see, it sounds like when you say the word uni, I'm thinking, you're somewhere in EMEA, somewhere in Europe, right? Maybe the UK, where it is not that common from what I have seen to go straight from college in the United States into security. Is it possible? Absolutely. I mainly see that in terms of internships. I'll see college kids in internships, but for the most part, I see people with an IT background get into security first.
But what's holding her is the lack of technical skills. In the last 12 months, she worked on some cyber risks projects. She also was involved in some vulnerability management work, but she found when it comes to investigating cyber incidents, she needs to analyze maybe network traffic or OS logs, or even if she is involved in a project where she had to look at an architectural diagram to do a security assessment, she found that she couldn't keep up, but also she found it extremely intimidating, especially as she's
Oh my gosh, so true. So true. There are so many of these technical skills that you need to feel confident, to feel assured that you can do the job. And those first skills that she felt like she had are more on that auditing, GRC, governance, risk compliance aspect of things. And in most YouTubers, most advice that I see says this is the easiest path to break into security. It's the least technical path to break into security. And that stands true, right? Because technical skills take more time to develop, and it can be more difficult to do outside of an enterprise. Can you do it? Yes, but you have to be really intentional to learn those skills. They're often not going to be taught in college or in the courses that you may take.
still new to the field, which is stopping her from working on bigger projects that will ultimately lead to promotions and higher titles and better salaries. So I designed a plan for her to fill in the technical gaps that she needs. Now, unfortunately, there is so much conflicting information on the internet and from people that I talk to. Some people are under the impression that you need to be an expert in networking and operating systems and that you need to be some kind of a hacker man before you even work in cybersecurity. And on the other end of the
Yes, it's true. There's going to be a ton of advice, and that's why I'm doing these reaction videos, so you can hear advice from two different professionals and make that decision for yourself. Where, in my opinion, you absolutely need a fundamental understanding of networking. You don't have to have a network engineer's level understanding of networking, but if you don't understand the difference between TCP and UDP, if you don't have a basic understanding of the OSI model and how information travels, or how the internet client server communication works, you're probably going to struggle. You don't need to be a master of how these protocols work, right? The technical details behind, TCP or UDP. You just need to know what they are and, in general, how that information travels. So there is a baseline of information, but it can be fairly foundational, where like the CompTIA Network Plus gets you that information.
The spectrum, we have people who think that you can get a 6-figure cybersecurity salary in 7 days if you learn how to push a button.
Also wild. Anyone who tells you that you can career transition to a 6-figure salary in 7 days is selling you something, and it's probably not reality.
The vulnerability management scanner. So she felt overwhelmed when she was looking for the best way to get those technical skills. And I also felt the same way when I was starting out. I didn't know where to start, but the real problem is following those type of plans can be a gigantic waste of time, waste of money, and it can significantly slow your progress. So to avoid all of the nonsense, here is my plan. Number one, if you're completely new to IT, you don't know how to troubleshoot laptops, you don't know how to troubleshoot computers, usually the go-to recommendation is CompTIA A+. I don't really recommend CompTIA A+. I think it's way overpriced for the value that you're getting out of it, and I also don't think you need to spend that much time and money on that basic material.
Before he gets to the instead, I need to give my opinion here, because at the end of the day, I recommend CompTIA A+. If you do not have a job in IT. If you currently have a job in IT, absolutely skip the A+. You don't need it if you're already in IT. But if you're trying to break in, I agree. I completely agree. It's overpriced. The material is basic. You are not getting the value of learning from what you're paying for. It's 2 tests. How stupid is that? 2 tests? Get out of here. It's also all theory, meaning it's like A, B, C, D type questions. There's very little, like 5% practical type questions in CompTIA, but the value comes from landing a job, and that's why I recommend it, and that's why I have to recommend it. It is the certification that got me from English teacher into IT, and $500. If you're telling me I can pay $500, study, take a test, get a certification, I don't have to go to college, and it will greatly increase my chances of getting a job, I'm probably going to go that route. Even though everything else is a negative, super agree with him. Everything else is a negative. I hope what he is going to say here, I agree with. I would love any other certification to get me that job. But that, at the end of the day, that's the thing that matters, getting you the job.
Instead, I recommend the Google IT support professional.
I had a feeling. I had a feeling. I got this certification. This was the first certification I got. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be awesome. I super enjoyed it. For the price, you get so much value. I want to say it's $49. It's Coursera. I want to say is like the $49 per month, and you can do as many courses as you can possibly cram in that time. To get the actual piece of paper, you have to pay. You can do the course, I want to say you get 7 days free access to the course, and you can complete it in that amount of time, but you don't get that piece of paper unless you pay. And like every checkbox compared to CompTIA, I think it's better, except for industry recognition. In the United States, it didn't. I got 0 interviews. I got 0 job offers. Obviously, right? I couldn't get an interview. People are like, "What is this certification?" No one knew about it. Granted, this was 3 years ago. Maybe it's changed, but I recently checked. So Google has like this job board. If you complete one of their certificates, they have a job board where you can like start job hunting. Last time I checked, it had like 12 jobs. It's like it's not a place you would go to job hunt at all. And go to link. Let's just check it out. Real life. Prove me wrong. Let me try and prove myself wrong here. LinkedIn. All right. We want to go to jobs. And what do we want? We want CompTIA A 2000 over 2000. Does A plus? I don't. That probably won't change anything. That changed a lot. So somewhere between 2,000 and 30,000 jobs if we put in CompTIA A plus. Let's put in Google IT support. I mean, just at the end of the day, there are not as many jobs that are going to match. I've personally never seen, if you like scroll through here and find certifications, anyone asking for the Google IT support certification. It's just not how it works. And I hate that because I absolutely enjoyed the Google IT support professional certificate. I would recommend it in terms of, do I want to get into IT? Do I enjoy what someone in IT would do? Do I want to learn more about the profession? But if you expect this one certificate to get you interviews, it didn't cut it for me. It just didn't.
Certificate. It really introduces you to the basics of IT and the basics of IT support, and you can even land the help desk role if that's what you want after you get it. The training is hosted on Coursera, a paid platform, but you get 7 days free trial. I'll put a link to it in the description box below. The second skill that you need is networking. Again, conventional wisdom will tell you to do something like a CCNA or perhaps Network Plus. My opinion.
Again, before his opinion, I recommend Network Plus if you are struggling to get job opportunities in entry-level IT. CompTIA A plus may not be enough. I either was working on and just about to get my Network Plus, or I had just gotten it right when I got my first entry-level IT role. I want to say I needed both of those certifications, and that's when I started getting a lot of interviews. I started getting a lot of attention, a lot of traction on this career transitioning thing. In general, the Network Plus is okay. It has a lot of good and necessary information. Even if you have a job in IT already, then I wouldn't get the Network Plus, but I would study for it. I would learn that content, absolutely. Just go to Professor Messer. Don't worry about taking the test. Don't worry about giving CompTIA, $400, whatever it is, and sit for the exam. But learn the information that is covered by Network Plus. Now, I kind of wish, there's a part of me that wishes I went for the CCNA. So Cisco is the company behind the CCNA certification. They are the big daddy of the networking industry. So it's a vendor specific certification, but they deep dive. If Networking Plus is a mile wide, inch deep, the CCNA is half a mile wide, half a mile deep. Like you need to know a ton of stuff still because it is entry level, but you really deep dive into a lot of the protocols, and it's hands-on, it's practical. You're going to be implementing BGP, EIGRP, whatever all the acronyms are. I've forgotten them. It's been a minute since I studied. I don't have a networking background. Clearly, I don't have the CCNA. You would at least need, in my opinion, Network Plus level knowledge to be decent at security. You need to understand how networks work if you want to secure them. CCNA would just be like, to me, the gold standard on really understanding these protocols. But we're here for Unix Guy. What's his opinion?
opinion is if your goal is to work in cybersecurity or even cloud computing, you don't really need to pass exams for those certificates. Instead, what I want you to do is go to YouTube and in the search box, just type Professor Messer.
Let's go. Professor Messer has got great videos. I definitely put them on like 1.75, 2.0 speed and just plow through it, right? Professor Messer is such a great free resource. Learn the content. Love it. Love it.
Network Plus, and there you have it, completely free training for CompTIA Network Plus, where you can watch the video, learn the material. You don't really need to pass that exam. And if you're so worried about job search and keywords and job searches, well, you can put these skills in your CV. So for example, you can put in your CV that you have knowledge in TCP IP and basic networking protocol.
I would be careful about putting that you have skills on your resume if you only have knowledge. You can watch a video to gain knowledge, but having knowledge does not mean you have a skill. So, personally what I would say is do a project. It doesn't have to be a big project. It can be like just doing a Wireshark on learning how does TCP work, right? How does the OSI model work? And if you do even just a minor project to physically understand it, to physically see it, then put it on your resume, because you will get questions. If I see anyone putting a skill on their resume, I'm asking, tell me about that. It is a very, very fair question. If it is on your resume, expect to get questions on it. So I personally, this is just me, I find that if I watch a video, my understanding of the concept is like 10%. My ability to communicate it to someone else effectively is very diminished unless I have put that knowledge into practice in the form of a project, because once you do a project, you can far more easily articulate what the concept is, and you can give a real-life explanation on how you've used it, which you can't do, obviously, if you only watch a video.
You don't actually need to pass those exams. And if you're really keen on passing the exams and taking them, by all means, please do so. Just know it's not really needed, and it's not something that I would personally do. And I told Amy that she doesn't really need to pass those exams. Next up,
I want to reiterate what he said. 100% agree. If you already have a job in IT, you do not need those certifications, unless potentially if you want to go to hyper niche into network security, then very likely you would want to, whatever vendor you go with, right, whether it's Cisco or FortiGate, whoever, you'll want to get their certifications. CCNA, then you go CCNP, you go the security route. But if you're just doing security analyst, if you're doing broad security and you're not like niching into networking, skip it. Don't waste your time, don't waste your money. It's only if you're just trying to break into general entry-level IT first.
Is learning Linux, which is an operating system that you will probably need to use as a cybersecurity analyst. You don't need to become a Linux system administrator. You don't need to become a Linux expert.
Linux is used everywhere in cybersecurity. I recently watched a Google video saying it is a more used operating system than Windows. And if you think about that, until I started working, like getting IT certifications, I had probably heard the word Linux. Like if you asked me what Linux was, I might have been able to tell you. But now it's like, oh yeah, Linux is everywhere. Linux is everywhere in cybersecurity, and there's good reasons for that. So you need, again, a basic understanding. Even today, I'm learning more and more commands. I forget commands, I have to relearn them, but you'll definitely want some level of practice with Linux.
But you need to know how to navigate your way through Linux. You may need to run some tools on Linux. You may need to look through some logs on Linux. Luckily, we have the Cyber Mentor Academy. They have an extremely cheap and high quality training that will introduce you to Linux and give you exactly what you need as a cybersecurity professional.
TCM Sec has phenomenal courses. I want to say they tend to be $30 last time I checked. I've gotten 4 or 5 of their courses for either free or $1 because they do promotions all the time. Absolutely can't recommend them enough. Really high quality training content.
I'll put a link for them in the description box below. Now, just a note, if you actually want to be an ethical hacker or a pen test, which is a different career path than a cybersecurity analyst, then you will need to know a little bit more Linux. I talked about how to become an ethical.
Yes. So security analysts tend to be like entry-level cybersecurity, whereas an ethical hacker is just not entry-level security. So if your understanding, your skills and your ability, your knowledge obviously needs to be higher if you want to be in a higher level position. That just kind of makes logical sense, but particularly why you need more in-depth Linux skills for ethical hacking would be because you're going to be using probably a Linux box to do your hacking. It will be your main operating system, potentially your daily driver, the type of operating system you use every single day to do your job. Whereas as a security analyst, I use Windows. I use Windows because it is a more convenient operating system to do the tasks I need to do. We have Outlook, we have Microsoft Teams, we have all of the various other programs that I use. They're just built for Windows, so it is easier for me to do my job on Windows. Whereas hacking, all of your tools, they come pre-built into Kali, or you can build your own distro and download your specific tools.
Ethical hacker in this video. Last but not least is a programming language. Now this is optional for Amy. She will only need it if she wants to work in a security operations center and automate some tasks, or if she chooses to pursue ethical hacking, then she will need to know some programming. Again,
yes, there's a ton of mixed information on do I need to know programming to get into IT, to be a professional in IT. And I would say, as you progress in your career, programming can become absolutely essential, but for some niches, it is absolutely not required. So if you go auditing, you don't need to know any programming whatsoever, like at all. You don't need to know programming. But yes, if you're going to become an ethical hacker, if you're going to look into doing bug bounties, looking for code and exploits in code, obviously it really helps to know programming. In terms of being a security analyst, your level of knowledge should be at scripting. And scripting is just writing very basic, maybe 10, 20 line, 30 line functions to automate tasks. And that's very different. Or maybe creating API calls to get information from a website. It's very different than actual programming where you can be writing hundreds or thousands of lines of code. You're not necessarily making programs, so just a basic understanding of programming in general, how do programs work, is a good thing to know, but only certain niches do you need an expert level knowledge. Reverse malware analysis would be another one, but it's going to be, like he said, optional depending on your area of expertise.
Using the Cyber Mentor Academy, they have a really high quality and affordable training for Python, which I will link in the description box below.
Again, I always enjoyed TCM Security. The one I used for learning, what was it called? Python for Everybody. That's how I remember things. I have to cover my face. Python for Everybody. Everybody, yeah. English teacher can't spell. This one right here was so good. Chuck Severance. He is a phenomenal teacher. He is so good. If you have never touched Python, it is the language I would recommend for cybersecurity, for starting out. Do this course, learn the basics, and then don't ever do any other course. Just do projects. Start with like silly games. There are some, you can do walkthroughs. I want to say Tim, what's his name? Starter Python projects. Oh man, what's his name? It's been a minute. If I see him, this guy, Tech with Tim. He has so many cool projects and he does walkthroughs of them. So start with Python for Everybody by Chuck Severance, so you can learn the absolute basics, and then do maybe like 5 projects with Tech with Tim, he does walkthroughs. So just do the walkthrough and then do projects on your own. And at that point, you're going to be good at scripting. You can script at that point. And these projects are not like build this program to track track everything you do for an entire day, for an entire year, and have login portals and SQL databases. The projects that you'll do with him are going to be like rock, paper, scissors, blackjack, basic games that really teach you the logic behind building simple programs. And that's the scripting level right there. That is absolutely perfect. Great level of a standard knowledge. Of course, if you want to niche down into ethical hacking or reverse malware analysis, you're going to have to get a lot better than that. But as like an industry standard, this is a perfect spot to be at.
Now, the real problem is I think these courses are not enough. Yes, they will give Amy those skills, but unfortunately, I think even after Amy does these courses, she may still feel inadequate. Because once she do these courses, she will realize that there is still a lot more that she doesn't know, which creates the good old imposter syndrome. She told me she had to deal with people who talked down at her and weren't nice with her, and she thinks it's because she doesn't have the skills. But what I really think is it's a problem in the IT world, and more specifically in cybersecurity. There is a lot of egos and there is a lot of unsavory characters who are insecure and they want to feel good about themselves by putting others down. And
I don't think that's unique to cybersecurity. I would say that's probably everywhere. So what I've seen, in my particular opinion, when I see this the most, other IT people putting other people down, is they're annoyed. One, IT people in general don't have the best interpersonal skills, communication skills. They can tend to be awkward. Right there, perhaps they're not really good at talking with girls. So there's probably some of that going on. But from what I've seen, they also tend to get annoyed. So, for instance, I was level 1, like help desk, junior sysadmin, whatever type job, and I was trying to get better at email protocols, email tickets, email security, all of it, email everything. And we had this guy who'd been working at the company for a long time, 10 plus years, and that he was the email guru. Everyone would go to him with their email problems, and I remember bugging this guy. And in the beginning, he was so annoyed with me. He would talk down to me. He was short with me. He was not a pleasure to work with, certainly in the beginning. And what I found, I eventually met him in person, and I found, one, that's just, he was awkward. Like, that's just who he was. And you're going to have to deal with some people like that. But two, he was just annoyed and frustrated because most people would expect him to give them the answer and then be done with it. It was like, hey, go do my job for me, give me the final product so I can take credit for it, and then see you later. Why would anyone want to do that? Why would your superiors, right, the people with more seniority over you, do your job for you and then not get credit for it? Like, that's a really awkward relationship that you would have with them, and I find this to be more true than people just being dickholes the entire time. So in that situation, when I was new, I was bugging him, he was frustrated with me, I would try my hardest to learn, to get better, to improve. Anytime he told me something to do, I would write it down, so that way the next time I went to him, I can be like, I tried boom, 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 all of these things, what can I try next? He would give me the next thing to try, and eventually over time, I wore him down and got really good at it to where that relationship improved. But it's the same now that I'm higher up, and people have been, like newer techs ask me questions. I get super annoyed when I have to explain the same thing to you again and again and again, and you're not taking notes, you're not learning, you're not progressing, and you just want me to do your job for you. I've created documentation on this. That's frustrating. That's so frustrating, and my communication with you is going to change. I'm not going to be happy, fun, bright every time we talk, because you're wasting my time. You're making my job harder, more difficult. No thanks. So in general, most people in IT are awesome. I have enjoyed 90+% of my coworkers. Teaching was far more negative. There are far more difficult relationships, difficult coworkers that you have to deal with as a teacher than I have ever had in IT. This is not like a negative domain where you're just going to be surrounded by, super socially awkward people that hate to talk to you and look down on you. That has not been my experience.
That can be very, very challenging for someone who's starting out and still thinks they don't have enough skills. And that's when I tried to shift her thinking and explain to her that learning is a lifelong journey. I showed her that even I, after 20 years in the field, still have a plan, still have things that I work on and things that I study on, and I think she should do the same. It's not about knowing everything, but it's about having a plan and being better today than you were yesterday. And this will never end. And unfortunately, there is no solution to those unsavory characters and insecure people in the IT world. The only solution is for us to be the best versions of ourselves. And this mindset is the secret that will lead to more senior roles, it will lead to higher salaries, and it will lead to excellence. And this is precisely what I talked about in this video, where I talk about the best way to gain the highest salary possible in cybersecurity. And I'll see you there.
Love it. Unix guy, dropping truth, dropping knowledge. Super enjoy all of his videos. Check him out. Like, subscribe. I'll put his link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.